stream. Got a green light this time. I'm showing connected to stream.me.
Beautiful.
Aloha, and welcome to Trust and Verify, the show where technical problems happen to us every single minute of every single day. This is another disaster of a show that we are going to put on for you tonight. But before we get to that disaster, I got to introduce my friend, my partner, my co-host, Boogie. Boogie, save the show, please.
Well, I'm only a broadcaster, not a magician. But I do like it's going to be good when at the start of the show, the first thing before you even say hello is a sigh. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another shit show. No, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, James. And that's a message I want to send out to the audience as well. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. The first of the night of the touring rock band audience on stream.me. Thank you. If you're watching the replay on Periscope tomorrow, thanks for joining us then. I see Stefan just wandered in late. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Thanks for sharing too, by the way. If you retweet out that link that our Twitter account, TAV Show, occasionally likes to tweet out, please go ahead and do that, and that'll be much appreciated. But I want to send a message, James, to you and to the audience. It's okay. Everything's going to be okay. If you can hide under the bed, you may want to do that now. So grab your favorite teddy bear, cat, or animal. Grab them. Tell your kids you love them. Kiss your significant other good night tonight, because it could be the end of the world as we know it, James. As of this afternoon, I'm afraid the tyrant-in-chief, Agent Orange, the Russian spy, he tweeted this out, James. Quote, Never, ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer the consequences, the likes of which throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious! That's your president of the United States on Twitter, James. Is the world going to end? Are you fearful?
No. I'm way more scared of my wife than Iran.
It gets even better, James. Check this out. We've now got Mr. Pompeo tweeting out in Farsi. I've got tomorrow's headline today, ladies and gentlemen. CNN breaking. Mike Pompeo is an Iranian spy. He's admitting it. He's just signed over to the Iranian regime. I mean, clearly he's speaking the language of the Ayatollahs here. You know, he's just signed himself over. He's in control of, the CIA, the State Department. Where is he now? Doesn't matter. He's signed over the government to the Iranian regime. Here's the beautiful part. Let me throw up a couple of articles for you, James.
Sure.
We now have the LA Times coming out in support of the Iranian Ayatollahs. We are at a new level of memeing here, and they still don't get what's happening. Blasting Iran's regime as, quote, not normal, Pompeo calls on Iranian Americans for support in California visit. And I've also got this one, James, from the Washington Post. Pompeo likens Iranian leaders to mafia. How dare he? How dare he? This is hot goss off the press. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo speaks at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Sunday launched a blistering attack on Iran's clerical and military rulers, calling them a kleptocracy akin to the mafia in a message the United States plans to start broadcasting heavily in Iran. The level of corruption and wealth among regime leaders shows that Iran is run by something that resembles the mafia more than a government. Pompeo's hardline speech comes just 3 weeks before the first round of banking sanctions suspended under the Iran nuclear deal is reimposed after President Trump, aka Agent Orange, withdrew from the landmark agreement in May. Bigger sanctions coming in November are aimed at cutting off virtually all of Iran's oil market. Now, before I go to you, James, can I just say something in regards to the Helsinki summit and in regards to the way Donald Trump was talking about Russian energy being flowing into Western Europe, right? Part of me wondered because the Helsinki summit was what it was, right? And we can talk about whether he was successful or not. I tend to think that he showed a little bit of inexperience, and he was trying to walk a very difficult line between showing strength to his detractors at home, but, offering an olive branch to Vladimir Putin and trying not to insult him, trying not to strong-arm Putin publicly. So I think it was a very difficult line to cross. Of course, the media did their absolute best to crowbar him into a position where he would have to strong-arm Putin publicly, but he didn't. So then they call him weak, right? So that's what I think was going on there. But I wondered if there is an intention here to work more closely with Russia in an effort to isolate Iran. I wonder if that's a bigger play here, a bigger picture thing. What do you think?
Yeah, we've called this for, months about what's going on, that Iran was next, that we all knew it was coming. We saw the writing on the wall with the Putin meeting that, look, we've talked about this. I think we talked about it on our show last week. I talked about it on the Pirate Show. I've talked about it on Your Voice America, that we all knew about the Syria deal. The Syria deal is what showed you what the structure was going to be going into Iran. It showed you where we were headed, and it showed you that Russia knew what was going on, and that Russia, when meeting with Trump, came out with a bold stand against Syria about how things were going to go. The media is they're a bunch of chicken littles right now. Has anyone checked in on Mike Cernovich's timeline? I think that I haven't looked at it because I've been blocked by him for like a year because I called him a skitcher with zero. But the thing about him, is
following it.
Okay, so the thing about him is that he's anti-war to the point of absurdity. So these are the people that are going to join the left's voices here. That's been their habit. That's been their history. We'll see from their timelines if they've learned anything. If any of these people have learned anything. That right now what's going on in Iran is not going to be what everybody thinks it's going to be unless we have to. And then if we have to, it's still not going to be World War IV because guess who's on board? Vladimir Putin. Guess who else is on board? Every member of NATO. The only person that Iran possibly has as an ally is Turkey. Where have we been headed? What have we been talking about? We're headed towards Turkey. We've been putting pressure there as well. Because after Iran comes Turkey. That's the most dangerous guy in the region right now. So
Turkey is a NATO member, though. Does that complicate things?
It does and it doesn't. It actually makes things more complicated with NATO if the other members of NATO aren't understanding the play. But it also makes things easier because we have internal NATO measures we can take. So it's half of one, six of another. That's why it's always been the final. I don't want to say the final, but it's always been at the end of this game where we were headed. So, I think we lost the chat, just so you're aware, but I think that's pretty much, I'm going to work on that while you take back over.
Sure. So, yeah, I wondered if during the Helsinki meeting there was some move to isolate Iran with regards to, this is the power of Donald Trump that people still don't understand. He has the ability now, because the opposition to him is so fervent, and it's opposition by definition now, we're at that point, no one in the media has the ability to compliment anything that he does, basically. And I'm talking like mainstream corporate media here, because they're carrying water for the Democrats, you see. Now, the Democrats need to oppose every single action that Donald Trump makes because he's Hitler, according to their voters, like their hardcore supporters. And we will do a little roundup of where the Democrats are at right now because they're falling apart. And we've got the evidence to show it. We've actually been talking about it on this show for about 6 weeks. Okay. Happening inside the Democrat Party. So we'll get to that a little later on. So because they need to be opposition by definition, now Donald Trump's tweet is it's all in capitals. Let's analyze it. So that, for one, they'll say he's completely unhinged. But they will also, as we just saw, they'll come out in defense of Iran now. You know, when he was aggressing, quote unquote, against North Korea, they defended North Korea. When he put sanctions on Russia, they actually come out and defend Russia. And if he doesn't put sanctions on Russia, they say, you need to do something about Russia. You see, it's always opposition by definition. And now with this action, with this talk on Twitter from himself and Pompeo, you'll now see the left and the Democrats come out and say, Iran's a great place. They're great people. Donald Trump's acting like a dictator. It'll be Trump bad, Ayatollah good. And that'll be more people in just regular society who are very, they're not engaged to the level that our people are. And I'm talking like audience-wise and friends and whatnot, our circles. They're just not engaged, and they're going to see newspaper after newspaper and CNN editorial after CNN editorial come out and say how wrong it is to say bad things about Iran. And they're going to scratch their heads and go, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
And so once again, he'll be able to control where the debate goes. And these people are just too stupid to understand it. They're doing it right now. Right now, the opinion pieces are being written, James, about how good Iran is and how they're a victim, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing that the left isn't getting, and that's why we're going to continue to win, and more win, is that, it's the meme war is all about truth. It literally is. That's why we win, is because if you can't put truth in a funny, great way, it doesn't sell. The meme goes nowhere. And that's what the left is. They're trying so hard to duplicate us. But when they do it with falsities, every time someone looks at it or hears it, they just go, what is that? That doesn't even make sense. Because they're so far gone. And the media is the champion of that. All we have to do is look back at the simple poll, is what percentage of Americans even give two craps about the Russia thing? 0.002%, is that right?
The quote from the Gallup poll itself was, "The number is so small, it's impossible to statistically represent it with a number." Right?
So that
not a lot.
I sound like Daffy Duck, according to our friend Jake, and that's very possible right now. I am having like the serious technical difficulties from hell. My computer has decided it no longer likes me. I need to burn it and start over. And I just didn't have time. That was part of the technical problems we were having before the show started. So I have to redo everything, and I just don't have the time. So I apologize that I am Daffy Duck tonight. Tomorrow I will try to be Mickey Mouse. We'll try to balance it out.
No, well, we can add the computer to a long list of people who don't like you, I guess.
Yeah.
What else is new? Right?
Yeah, what else is new?
Take a number, laptop. In regards to Iran, there will be people out there tomorrow saying Donald Trump is trying to create World War III. What we know is that the Iranian regime is on the verge of collapse already. There's 25% youth unemployment. There have been rolling protests in the street, and those protests have been stamped out. See, before this idea of invading countries and rebuilding them in America's image, James, America was quite adept at regime change without sending troops, without dropping missiles. They did it the old-fashioned way, right? By, helping to fund uprisings, by agitating within political systems, by supporting opposition parties and whatnot. That was the good old-fashioned way of getting a country to flip and, be something more friendly. But I guess that doesn't make as much money for certain people, does it, when you do it that way? If you can get a country on side and perhaps offer them some kind of prosperity, hey, we'll look after you. Why don't you make your people richer? Why don't we bring jobs here? Remember, part of the problem for the Iran nuclear deal, James, the reason that the Western European governments were so angry that Donald Trump pulled out of it, why? Billions and billions and billions of dollars of revenue from Iran back to Western Europe, because a whole bunch of companies had agreed to go in there and start doing business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Donald Trump cut that off at the knees. And they're saying, oh, this is terrible, this is terrible. Yes, but you're also adding fuel to the fire that's happening socially in Iran right now. I've made this point before. Sanctions and cutting off capital supplies, making it harder for the people. Like, the people in Iran aren't going to overthrow Donald Trump. They're going to overthrow their own government.
Yep.
And, Donald Trump has that weapon at his disposal. And if you can cut off their last, would you say, their last quote unquote, I hate using this word, friend in Russia, who's a big business partner with them, then you completely isolate them. And then, they're going to talk tough, because that's what these countries do. That's what these rulers do. They talk tough and they threaten war. There's not going to be a war. I don't believe that there is going to be a war in Iran. I don't think there's going to have to be a war in Iran. I think that the Iranian leaders will be given an option, and if they fail to take it, then they will be kicked out by their own people anyway. And America might just help make that happen.
I agree with you, but I think it's likely at this point that we're going to bomb something. Now, I'm not saying bomb in any specific kind, but I know from the rhetoric from Iran for decades that they can't keep their mouth shut. They're not going to stop. So they're going to say something. And when they do something inappropriate, wrong, hurt something, and they threaten America, look, that was the clear signal here. Donald Trump said, do not threaten us. If you do, you are going to get whacked. And so they're going to do it. See, the thing about Iran is that they've always thought about America, and because America's proved it, that we were the paper tiger. When your ideology says that America is the paper tiger, then you're going to think, no matter what you hear, that you're going to go ahead and continue along your path because it's programmed in your head. This is their psychology. their psychology is America is the paper tiger. So when these mullahs open their mouths, probably tomorrow, something's going to get bombed. Something inside Iran is going to get blown to smithereens. I would not doubt if it's a nuclear facility. I would not doubt that. That's where I think things would go because they can't keep their mouth shut.
Can I add something into the mix and just throw a little grenade over the fence? We understand that tweet is not for Iran, right?
Right.
It's for us.
Right. Exactly.
That's for the people on Twitter. That's for the public. Now the media will come out and say, "Oh, Donald Trump is conducting, he's putting threats. He's conducting foreign relations on Twitter." That's false.
Right.
He doesn't have to put it on Twitter. He can get on the phone and talk to them directly. He has other ways, other means at his disposal of, how would you say, articulating his displeasure at Iran's recent threatening rhetoric. He doesn't have to do it over Twitter. Right. That's for us. Right. And that's a message for the voting population. And it's also a tease to throw out for the media.
That's right.
He's using the media once again. What for? Don't know. Now, here's something that's going to come at you. The cynics, James, the Donald Trump haters, you know exactly what they're going to say, right? They're going to say this is all just a big distraction. He's just doing this to take your mind off the real story, which is he's a Russian spy and he's having sex with Playboy models.
Yeah,
he sounds like James Bond, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm going with that. Like, I think most of us would like that life. So yeah, I agree with you that tweet absolutely was meant for us. It was meant for the public. It's that absolutely he's distracting a lot of things. But he's not distracting what they're saying he's distracting from. And I have a new perspective since just Friday. Friday on the Pirate Show, when Chris McDonald asked me what I thought this week was going to look like, I said that I thought that there were some loose ends we needed to clean up, and we were likely not to see much action. Yesterday, before this, I reevaluated a couple new data points that I got that came in, and I started to think next week Act 3 is going to begin. Then today happened. And when I look at today, I'm willing to bet that by Friday of next week, Act 3 starts. People are getting arrested by Friday of next week. This is how Donald Trump works. We may have attacked Iran in between then, but he's not distracting us from the crazy lefties on a narrative that 0.002% of the country thinks is true. That's like ridiculously stupid. No, nobody would do that. And he has the information better than we do. So when you start adding up all these data points and you start seeing what's really going on, I think Act 3 starts by Friday of next week. I think that if Iran gets froggy, they get bombed in the middle of that. And I think that come Monday morning, you're going to see activity already putting more pressure on that front. And here's why. Not only did Donald Trump tweet, and you already covered it, we're covering it on this show, is that everybody's going to focus on the tweet and completely forget that Mike Pompeo simultaneously was giving a speech saying all about Iran, all about telling their people, come to the light. We are providing the light for you. We are going to be here for you. We are here to help you. Get rid of the mullahs. Get rid of the dictators. That's what that entire speech was. He gave a 40-minute speech that completely talked about helping those people in Iran. He completely talked about the subjugation of the people of Iran. He completely talked about where Iran came from and where it's headed. And so when you combine these two things, you really start to understand that exactly the point you just made. They've already been in contact with those boys over there. They've already had their contact through other foreign countries, over through their ambassadors. This has all been going on for a minimum of 2 months already before we got to today. And it's not been leaked anywhere in the press. There's stories that give us data points that make us see that this is what's been happening. But you have to look at it with hindsight to see it. You have to go, oh, that's what that meant. Oh, that's what that meant. Because when you realize that today culminated in a double whammy, essentially, you got the Secretary of State giving a speech pleading to the people of Iran we're here for you. And then you got the president saying, threaten us again, and I'm going to put my foot up your ass. What more could you ask for?
Just, okay, I'll bite. Just say you're correct, okay? How important then was it for the Trump administration to seal the leaks when they did? Because if you remember, if you cast your mind back to the first 6 months of Donald Trump's presidency, it was like pissing through a cheese grater. There were that many leaks, right? So when you brought in Mr. Kelly, General Kelly, and there was a couple of other changes, a couple of other people were taken out, and then all of a sudden, like that, it stopped. You replaced the DNI, the head of the CIA, and the head of the FBI, all in a matter of, weeks of each other?
Yeah.
Because remember, before that, let's not forget, like leaking private phone conversations with world leaders.
i.e. Australia.
Yeah, exactly. And because if you are in control, if there are leaks, you really can't formulate any effective strategy. Because a big part of a strategy of geopolitical realignment in various countries around the world, you need to have you need to have an element of secrecy. Because if they know what your moves are going to be before you do it, then there is no strategy, right?
Right.
So how important was it to plug those leaks? Do you think what we're seeing now is, has this always been the plan, or has it been, are we like mounting one strategy on top of another? Or do you think there's always been like a linear progression to where we are at this point now? Like now we're at Iran, right?
Yeah, no. Okay, so let me tell you how the strategy actually plays out for the Trump administration. This is for real. This is how I do things mentally, and I know they're way smarter than me. So what they do is there's an outline. There's a strategy outline in place of goals. They do not strategize the actual tactics. See, that's where the left is failed. That's where linear thinkers fail. That's where one-level move chess players fail, is that they think everything is in a tangential line that goes from left to right or front to back or up to down. But globally, you think in 3 dimensions. And so you set a strategy. My goal is to overthrow the Iranian regime. So that's the end. Everything in the middle can follow multiple paths from every different direction and react in real time because you have not locked down into one strategy. That's tactics. So you move and you think, okay, this is my strategy. Now, how do I get from here to there? What's the tactics? And then you set things in motion, and you do one move, but at the end or close to the end of that move, you start thinking about, okay, now what can I do? What does the new position look like? And you start all over. And you just continually start over until you actually reach your end goal. And it's really in 3 dimensions. So when we think about that, and most of our audience knows that, most of our audience thinks like that, when we see those things in motion, we start to understand that, yes, this strategy has been in place since the day he got elected, but no, it's not locked in stone. Everything is mutable. Everything can change at the drop of a hat. It's just like me when I put these things together. New data, rebuild the whole puzzle. Don't just add the piece on to a puzzle already existing. You literally have to rebuild the entire puzzle every time you get new data. That's what they're doing.
It's like game theory, right? And you can construct a probability matrix, and then within that you've got metagame. Like how do you, like the game within the game, right? The game underneath the game. And as new data gets added, then that adjusts your probability matrix outcomes, and different probabilities like shift. So you might go like from 85%, we're going to put this policy to get that reaction. Something else happens, that drops to 50%, and then a different option becomes available at the other end of the scale because that's now more likely because of what just happened here. And smart strategic thinkers, they would do that. Like it's very, they call it probabilistic thinking. Good poker players play poker like that, right?
Right.
Because, bad poker players get a pair of aces and think that they're going to win the hand.
All in.
Whereas good poker players see cards as they come out and understand that, if just say a jack, a 10, and a queen rolls out, and the other guy who's just been checking back to you all of a sudden pushes all of his chips in, more than likely your two aces are going to be worth shit now, right? Compared to what he's got.
Right. Absolutely. No, absolutely. Game theory is a perfect segue from what I said to what you're saying. I mean, we're informing people that watch the replay on this like you wouldn't believe. No, I absolutely agree with you. Game theory completely ties in. It's exactly what we see going on. I have no problem with what's going on. In fact, I think it's a very good strategy. And when I'm looking at things are going to be so busy this week that you think I look tired now. Wait till you see me next week. Because
so now we've identified the strategy, then let's see how good you really are. Let me really put you under the pump here. Question without notice. What's the tactic behind that tweet from Donald Trump?
He's letting you hit the nail on the head. That literally was for us to let us know that that's where we're at, because he feels exactly like I feel. Iran's too stupid to not do the next provocative thing. So they're going to do something provocative. He wants the American people and the people of the world ready for when he bombs the shit out of Iran, so that everybody doesn't think it just came out of left field and that they're caught by surprise. See, when you're caught by surprise, you don't have time to prepare yourself for what's about to happen. That's what he did. That's a preparatory tweet. He's telling you the same thing I'm telling you. Get ready. They're too stupid to do what they're supposed to do, and so something's getting bombed probably by Wednesday.
And here's another thing too. Just say they don't do what's expected. See, a good part about a good politician is you only present your opponents with lose-lose situations. You only give them lose-lose situations. You never give them a chance to win, right?
Right, that's right.
If they just say it's more than likely that they will not stop the aggressive rhetoric because their ideology, their regime is founded on it. But just say they did. How do they look then in the eyes of the people who are trying to overthrow them? Exactly. If you are one of the people who are fighting for freedom in Iran, you then all of a sudden say, hey, they're at their weakest point right now. Did you see that? They just backed down. They're weak. They're scared. Now is the time to agitate.
That's right.
Lose-lose.
Lose-lose.
They need to look strong for their own people to remain in power, but they need to back down to prevent being taken out. It's very difficult. What do you do?
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. That's the strategy, right? What's the strategy been all along? I'm trying to give the people the realistic, right? Exactly. The strategy all along has been civil war inside Iran. The strategy all along has been those people to get rid of their dictators. That's been the strategy since Donald Trump got elected. Think about it. Everything Mike Pompeo said, everything they've done, everything they've pursued, everything you have talked about tonight, that has been the goal all along. Lose-lose for Iran. Win-win for Donald Trump. It's genius. The guy's a flipping genius. Stable genius, unstable genius. He's a freaking genius.
Doesn't matter. Can we add a couple more plot points, a couple more data points into this discussion, James, and then maybe bring it back to America domestically?
Absolutely.
Check this out. I want to get your thoughts on this. Carter Page FISA documents are released by the Justice Department. There's been a lot of commentary on this. Let me just read a couple of paragraphs here. The Trump administration disclosed on Saturday a previously top-secret set of documents related to the wiretapping of Carter Page, the one-time Trump campaign advisor who was at the center of a highly contentious accusation by Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee that the FBI had abused its surveillance powers. Democrats in February rejected the Republican claims that the law enforcement officials had improperly obtained a warrant to monitor Mr. Page, accusing them of putting out misinformation to defend President Trump and sow doubts about the origin of the Russia investigation. But even as Republicans and Democrats issued dueling memos characterizing the materials underlying the surveillance of Mr. Page, the public had no access to the records. I would take issue with that. There was not dueling memos. There was one memo from Devin Nunes, and then there was a piece of paper from the Democrats which really was incoherent, almost nonsense level psychobabble for the most part. And if you tried to read it, oftentimes you're wondering what facts are even present in this document at all, because it was all like, oh, well, we don't know about this and we don't know about... Yes, thanks for telling us all the things you don't know, Adam Schiff. Like, that's brilliant. That's really going to clear up a lot. But just another one to tack on to the end of that. Carter Page warrant reflects attack on our civil liberties, James, from the Hill, surprisingly. Yep. If the information in the FBI's Carter Page warrant constituted probable cause for wiretapping an American political campaign, then the process and the officials involved in it carried out one of the most significant known violations of American civil liberties in recent history. What is the phrase you have been talking about for the last 12 months that I've been seeing on Periscope, James? Fruit from the poison tree. The documents released over the weekend reveal quite clearly that the only information that even remotely connected Page and the 2016 campaign to Russia came solely from Fusion GPS dossier and the Yahoo News report that was based on the same information from the same source. So the information for the dossier came from one source, and then in order, to cite a reference to validate the dossier, they used Yahoo News, who got their information from the dossier, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So fruit from the poison tree, James. What do you think of the Carter Page thing? Rudy Giuliani said this proves Donald Trump is innocent and in the clear. The Democrats come out and say this proves that Donald Trump is a guilty swine. We can't verify, so who do we trust?
Oh, my God. Okay. I'm going to try to get to that because...
Did you see that?
Yeah. Dude, so I'm going to try to get to that, but I want to address a comment that I saw Jake make. Jake is super smart. Jake is a day trader. He knows what he's talking about, and I'm going to give him one thing that I want him to rethink. He said, everybody fill up your car. Gas is going to go up bigly, and I'm going to say, actually, I think gas is going to go down. And people are going to look at me like, are you out of your mind? Who would do that? Because what's going to happen is the speculators are all going to speculate, and that price per oil is going to go up. But remember what Donald Trump strategically did 30 days ago, or was it 45 days ago? It was roughly about a month and a half ago. Donald Trump got OPEC to increase oil production, not decrease it. Donald Trump got America to increase oil production. Texas will be the third largest oil exporter in about a month. So I want you to think about the combination of those things happening at the same time as Iran is about to get fried. Think about what's really going on. He knew where we were headed months ago. So when you have an increase of all of the oil production, that normally drives down the cost of oil. So when you add in war in the Middle East, that normally drives up the cost of oil because of what? Supply. Getting the supply becomes harder, more complicated. When you combine the two, you get an even playing field. Donald Trump is not going to risk the economy of the United States. He's the economy president. He is literally the economy president. So I hate to go down that tangent, but
don't forget his first Secretary of State was Rex Tillerson, the man who just so happened to run the world's largest oil company for about, 10 years as well, 15 years?
That's right.
Something like that. And his first order of business was to get on good terms with Saudi Arabia. And you saw various Saudi Arabian figures being locked up and rounded up it's almost as if the prince said, okay, we thank you for sending us Rex Tillerson, a man who knows the world oil market better than anybody else on the face of the earth, a man who gets on well with the people who deal in oil. They're saying no sound, James, in the chat.
I'm seeing sound going out on all my monitors. I can't verify it. Well, let's hope. We'll wait for okay. We got confirmation from the chat room. We're good. Sorry for the tech difficulties, but we're going forward. We're going to keep going until we run into a brick wall.
Someone else saying, "Is this live? My screen is showing July 18." No, it is live. We've actually travelled back in time, and you're with us.
You're with us. Oh, good Lord.
We're predicting what's going to happen 5 days from now. So the man who intimately knows the world oil market better than anyone else, Rex Tillerson, was the first guy hired basically by Donald Trump. The first deal done was that with the Saudi regime. The people were rounded up as if to say, look, I'll help you with the oil market. I'll help you with OPEC if you back me in clearing out the no good elements of the principality in Saudi Arabia. And that's how the current guy got into the top job, right? And he got to wipe out a few of his enemies home and abroad. There were some helicopter crashes even, right? So, you know, that gives more credence to your argument that these things were put in place beforehand in order to create the right environment. Because if you didn't do this first, then your options down the road are limited. You know, it's harder to exert pressure on Iran because you'll feel pressure domestically thanks to oil markets and fuel prices. That's something that can come back to bite you. And that's a very good way, actually, of losing support at home, is if people are having to queue up down the road to put petrol in their car and it's costing them twice as much, the president becomes the most unpopular man in the country, even more so very quickly.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right. That's why I brought that point to fruition, is that I think that a guy like Jake, who's super smart, that can read the tea leaves too, and he's a day trader, I think there's a money-making opportunity here when all of the other retards start pricing up the market for him to short their ass. So, anyways, having said all of that, Carter Page, we were on the subject of Carter Page. Carter Page, we've been talking about this ad nauseum forever, fruit of the poisonous tree, and that's why you see Robert Mueller is totally focused on Paul Manafort. Why is Manafort the subject for everybody to talk about? Because he's the one guy pretty much in that entire Mueller investigation that committed crimes outside of the administration, outside of the campaign, and way prior to getting any warrant related to fruit of the poisonous tree. Now, that may or may not be true as well, because you could make the argument in court that he would never have gotten to where he's at in his investigation without the Carter Page FISA warrant. So, again, fruit of the poisonous tree. But this is more important even than fruit of the poisonous tree. This is why you see that the General Flynn plea agreement has not been fulfilled yet. Why has that not been fulfilled? Because that will put paid to everything Robert Mueller wants to do. It will put paid to it. And a lot of people are going to not understand that, but here's why. The second that deal...
They need him there. As soon as there's a conviction, the game changes.
That's right. And then it goes insta pardon, and okay, it's all over with, done with, it's done. And when Donald Trump pardons him, what do you think anybody who may be feeling some pressure to make some shit up is going to think? I don't have to make anything up. Fuck you. I don't have nothing to say to you, Mueller. What are you going to do? Oh, you're going to arraign me on some bullshit other charge just like you did to General Flynn? Oh, go ahead. Why? Because I got the president's back, which means he has mine. I mean, it's a simple thing. This is what's going on. That's why. And when you look now, here's the biggest problem that they have. 0.002% of the population even gives a shit. So since 0.002% of the population cares, and you have nothing, and it's fruit of the poisonous tree, and you have literally sent a redacted document out that's all black and says Carter Page, we believe in steel at the top, they're fried. Like, the Mueller investigation is done. The rest of the people on Twitter that are still talking about it, they're the ones that are always a month behind because their leadership hasn't told them what to think now. They still need to catch up to the mainframe there and get downloaded with the new thing that they're going to argue about, which looks like, what's it going to be? Iran. The president is unhinged. He's mentally unfit. Prediction. We're headed to another episode of the 25th Amendment. Prepare for it, because here it comes.
All right. Let me throw this one up for you, James. This is a free hit over the fence. We'll round off on the Trump-Putin stuff. Trump's homage to Putin at Helsinki proves him unfit to govern. This came out today, James. Believe it or not. What a surprise. What a surprise, huh?
Oh, Jesus.
Contain yourself, comrade. This is serious. This is serious stuff. He's unfit to govern, I tells ya. President Donald Trump's shameful surrender to Vladimir Putin at the Helsinki summit revealed a threat to U.S. security far greater than Russia's hack of the 2016 election. The president himself. Yes, he's the biggest threat to America now, James. The situation is far more dangerous, and the threat is more urgent than most Americans realize. You're all idiots. That's the problem here. He's the danger, and you're stupid. That's what we're getting at here. Well done, mate. Well done, mate. Well done. Way to get the people back on side with the written news. The president's shameful performance at Helsinki provided all necessary warning. In recent days, Trump has openly embraced Putin's worldview, disdain for NATO, disdain for U.S. intelligence agencies, disdain for our European allies, and an effort to undermine them all. The president's words and actions in Europe and at home prove this to be true, even as he denies it. So there you go. Donald Trump is unfit to govern.
These guys can't even let me make a prediction. They started before me.
This came out only hours ago, so we know. Here's the thing: I kind of knew that the media realised that their angle on Helsinki wasn't working because Donald Trump's poll numbers, because they're very quick to poll the electorate in the aftermath of these big events, right? Summits, talks, all that kind of stuff. They pump the negative press. And, I'm not pretending that Donald Trump could have worded some things a little bit better, but I was like, that's not the end of the world. It's a press conference. What is said for public consumption is often the furthest thing than what is said behind closed doors. I mean, shit, he's just on Twitter now tweeting in all caps about, I'm going to blow up Iran. So, what are we taking seriously here, right? Public consumption versus private meetings, very different things. He could have worded some things better, but he didn't. Get over it. It's not the end of the world. Doesn't mean he hates the intelligence agencies. But I knew that they knew it was a dead end because within 24 hours after the Putin summit, what were they talking about, James? What were all the stories? The hidden Cohen sex tapes. Now we've got sex tapes on Michael Cohen, Karen McDougal. Yeah, bring Karen back out again. Come out here, Karen. Sit down. Let's have another chat to Karen McDougal. We've got money. He was talking about being paid off. Yes, another sordid sex affair. Let's go over that one again. That was 24 hours. So they knew that Donald Trump's popularity in the Republican Party actually went up after Helsinki, and they knew that less than 1% of the population even gave a fuck about it in the first place. And so they were like, let's move on. And that's what they did.
Yep.
So you can track the poor strategy of the Democrats and their PR firm, the corporate media, by how quick they shift from one story to the next. They got particularly good mileage out of the children in cages routine, even though I understand that you all know that there was fake images and there was a lot of rhetoric and stuff. They actually they gained some ground out of that because it's a really emotional button to push for a lot of people who aren't engaged, right? That's why it was in the press for 2 weeks. If they knew it wasn't working, it wouldn't be in the press for 2 weeks. And that's exactly what happened with the Helsinki summit. But there you go, James. You've nailed it once more. Look, he's already unfit to govern. Predictions before they happen. But to be fair, though, it is the 15th, right? No, it's the 18th, isn't it?
No, today's the 22nd. We had to change the date.
No, according to the date on the chat box, it's the 18th, my man.
I changed it. I already changed it as soon as they told me about it. Real quick, we can't see the comments. I saw Sandra say that she got pulled on Friday, and I would remind her to keep her private life private. Having said that, the problem here with Helsinki is that they literally are trying to sell you a narrative that somehow we're doing what Putin wants when Putin doesn't have the power to do just about anything. Like he literally doesn't have the finances to pull this kind of stuff off, let alone the desire. Like if you look at what he did, this is again, I know I keep beating the same drum, is that we have to look at Syria. We literally have to look at Syria because we bombed them twice. And twice, Putin left Syria. Putin didn't say a word publicly at all. He didn't say anything that said, don't do this, don't do that, I don't like this, screw Donald Trump. Nothing. He didn't even verbalize not agreeing. What does that tell you? That tells you he knew what was happening. That tells you that he understands what the game is, and he's been part of the game with everybody else in the region. The king of Jordan, the king of Saudi Arabia, the Gulf Cooperation Council. Everybody. Bibi Netanyahu. Think about what Bibi's done. And remember, I said this and you said this weeks ago when we said, look, we understand the play. What's Bibi Netanyahu doing? He is the guy that's being the front man for the whole game, all of the players, and he's right now telling the Iranian people, we support you. We got your backs. Get rid of the mullahs. Get these people out of here. See, a lot of people that are younger than me or even my age, they may not understand, I should say, that Iran used to be a free society. It used to be like the Persia that everybody wanted to visit. You can find the pictures on the internet. You can find video. You can see they had thriving culture. It was like going to Soho in New York. I mean, they were wearing bikinis. They had discotheques. They had everything in Iran until Jimmy.
It was the CIA that took the Shah out, mind you. And
Jimmy freaking Carter. Jimmy freaking Carter. Why does it always come back to a Democrat? Jimmy freaking Carter. That's exactly right. The CIA, it's destabilized.
Strategy of Zbigniew Brzezinski, James. You know, the grand chessboard. You put in like hardliners to keep the populations in control, so you can best, have your influence in the region, and you can control more natural resources. That part of the world he called the grand chessboard because that's where all the regions of the world meet, right? It was the most pivotal part on the chessboard. And that was the strategy in the 70s and, late 60s, 70s, and early 80s, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, Jimmy Carter screwed that whole thing up. The CIA, yeah, for sure. That it goes all the way back to then. You can even look at the hostages, how the fact that we didn't get any of the hostages back under Carter, but then the day President Reagan stepped into office, we got the hostages back. Why? Because they knew that Ronald Reagan wasn't going to play around. Just like today, they know Donald Trump's not going to play around. So this is going to be interesting to see. But, I can look at history to say we're doing the right thing. Irregardless of outcome, we're doing the right thing. We're attempting to free people. We're attempting to help people become free for themselves. Again, it comes back to teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. Teach a man to be free, he'll always want to be free. And that's what we're doing in Iran. And that's why the American system overall is superior, in my opinion, to almost any other system, is that we try to teach people that are under tyranny to be free. And once they have the taste of that freedom, they'll never give it up, just like we won't.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. I just think other parts of the world, they laugh at democracy. They laugh at freedom. They laugh at freedom of speech. They laugh at free markets. They think it's degenerate. They think it's definitely it's definitely not something like a good religious person would do in certain parts of the world. All jokes aside, I think the experiments in nation building and spreading democracy have more or less been an abject failure. In most parts of the world, they've cost trillions of dollars, countless amounts of allied lives, American and others.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you, but I would say when done improperly.
Spirals of destabilization, because then you just create vacuums with warlords because people crave. One of the things people say about Saddam Hussein is he ruled with an iron fist because that's what the people wanted. Believe it or not.
I agree with you. No, I absolutely agree with you. I would only make the argument that that's because it was done improperly. What I'm talking about is showing people freedom and giving them what it looks like for real, not by forcing freedom down someone's throat, not by making them overthrow their government, not by doing it and then destroying their country like Iraq. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about nation building in the traditional sense. I'm talking more like nation building in the terms of Hong Kong. Okay? Look at Hong Kong. Look at what happened a bunch of capitalists took over a barren rock, turned it into that great economic engine that to this day is what keeps China moving forward. This is what happened because free men stayed free, taught other people how to be free, and created something on that backbone, right? They did it themselves. That's what I mean. That's why this is going to succeed, is because we're not forcing freedom on someone. We're helping them attain their own freedom. That's just like America. I'm telling you, I'm a child of a rebel. I will always have rebellion blood in me. I will always march to the sound of freedom. And it's because of that. It's because I cannot stand tyranny. It's because my ancestors fought for their freedom. It's because my friends' ancestors fought in the Revolutionary War. It's because we've grown up immersed in freedom, immersed in what it means to get your own freedom, to take it and protect it yourself. And that's what I'm talking about. If America goes around bombing shit and like we did in Iraq and destroying countries and taking out Saddam Hussein, that's not, obviously it's a failed experiment. Look at Iraq. Look at what's going on there. But what's going to happen in Iran is a completely different model. It's the pro
has to be
model.
Organic.
That's right. It's literally like, if you want to be free, we're going to help you. If you don't want to be free, okay, that's your choice. But you're giving people choices, and you're allowing their own desires to come to the top.
Correct. No, that's fine. I think I'm glad that you're so behind giving freedom to the people of Iran, James, because freedom may be on the way out in America, and especially in New York, unless that patriot, that hero, James Comey, has anything to do about it. What the hell am I talking about? Comey freaks out, begs fellow Democrats to dump socialist left. We've been talking about this for 6 weeks now. Establishment Democrats are absolutely melting down over the rise of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Cortez, the 28-year-old Democratic socialist who defeated the fourth most powerful Democrat in Congress in an upset primary victory, becoming the quote-unquote new face of the DNC. They need a new face because Bernie's face is just about done. He's had enough love, I think, for one lifetime. He's got a head like a beaten favourite. Except she's a total train wreck, having been caught lying about her not-so-humble upbringings, parroting anti-Israel sentiment before admitting she knows nothing about the subject, and most recently promising to flip a seat red in November while stumping with Bernie Sanders. As a result, establishment Democrats are in full panic mode as Ocasio-Cortez wins liberal hearts and minds. Hearts and minds, James. Enter budding Democrat strategist James Comey. This is brilliantly written. Who just 48 hours ago, I thought he was a Republican. He's a proud Republican. Right. He's a Republican through and through. Oh, look at the Republicans. Donald Trump is firing a patriot at a Republican. He's such a proud Republican.
Oh,
and then it's like, please, Democrats, no! Who just 48 hours after Ocasio-Cortez's viral flip the seat red gaffe, begged Democrats not to vote for the socialist left. There he is. Democrats, please, don't lose your minds and rush to the socialist left. And his Republican Party, see how he didn't say my Republican Party?
Yep.
Did you know that? His Republican Party are counting on you to do exactly that. America's great middle wants sensible, balanced, and ethical leadership. This brings me to Joe Lieberman. Lieberman knocks Ocasio-Cortez as too far left for the Democrats. Ex-Senator Joe Lieberman is knocking progressive superstar Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that's the way I have to say it now, as a hardcore leftist whose election to Congress would damage the Democratic Party, and he's urging Representative Joe Crowley to jump back into the race. Quote, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's surprise primary victory over Representative Cowley seems likely to hurt Congress, America, and the Democrat Party. It doesn't have to. The former Connecticut lawmaker who remains influential among party members wrote in the Wall Street Journal. I tend to think, James, here's a conspiracy theory for you. I think now, I'm almost convinced that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is not a real person. Hear me out. I think she may be a hologram or some kind of cyborg, which was constructed by the autists on 4chan to bring a meme to life, to represent the perfect socialist straw man to destroy the Democrat Party and rally people around capitalism once again. She's too perfect.
Oh my
She's
God.
too perfect.
That's amazing.
She's your typically clueless New York socialist, right? She ticks every single meme box that there is. Like the unemployment's low because everybody's working 2 jobs. That's a 4chan line if I've ever heard one.
Right.
If they're imitating a socialist, right?
Right.
The other serious note about this is maybe New York Republicans shouldn't give up on this seat. Because if Joe Crowley's running and Ocasio-Cortez is running, and this is the establishment trying to stave off that swing to the hard left, which we've talked about very often, and I think it's a move of desperation because a lot of voters feel humiliated by the election of Donald Trump and the fact that they've been losing constantly for the last 3 years. So they're reaching for the more extreme option. You know, they're not thinking strategically here. They're thinking emotionally, right? And that's where people like this young lady, and I'm sure she's lovely, but that's where people like this young lady, this is where they harvest. This is how they harvest votes, with emotional reactions, anger, frustration. That's the breeding ground for the hard left. That's what they want. That's where they're at their most dangerous. But Lieberman's going to stick his nose in the middle of it. She's not going to be backed by the establishment. The establishment of the Democrats want people like her as far away from Washington as possible. Is there a chance here, James, for a Republican to sneak in should a vote be split between her and an independent, i.e. Joe Crowley?
I have to remind you that we did an episode right after she won, and you said, whoa, going all balls in already on the first day, huh, James? When I said... Yes, when I said...
you were risking your punditry career for the 17th time that month, I think, at that point.
Exactly. And I said, we can't lose. We can't lose this race. And I said, just like you just pointed out, we can win this race in the Bronx, in New York. They're already dividing their vote. They're dividing their vote at a point of, what is it, just about to turn August? And when you're talking what do we got? 3 months left at the most to try to get all of this figured out in there. That's not a lot of time. That's really not a lot of time for them to try to get this done before the election comes about. But the Republican has been working the same pace against the same thing, against the same person this entire time. Now, what's the reality? The GOP establishment, they're not pumping any money into the Republican there either. There's no money going into a lot of candidates, okay? The GOP establishment, from the RNC itself is not pumping money in to a lot of races where they should be, where they should have. They have the war chest of all war chests, and they didn't want to spend money in California already. So they better dump a lot of money behind John Cox. If not, still, I'm going to say everything like I say all the time. Everybody, please donate $5 to John Cox. It will help you in your home district. He is the tip of the spear. But back to New York is that they're not going to put a lot of money into him either. And so we're going to have to figure out how that race is actually shaping up to figure out if it's worth our funds going into that race for ourselves, because I think it is. I think it's worth it because...
On the upside, the Democrats aren't going to be putting a lot of money into Ocasio-Cortez either.
That's right.
They don't want to.
That's right. So that's why they're trying to give us that seat. They're in the process of attempting to give us Bronx. They just don't realize that. And so we need to get the Republican guy in the Bronx some front page press. We need to get him out from behind the curtain. We need to get him in front of Donald Trump, where Donald Trump sits him down and says, listen, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to go for it. This is how we're going to crush him. Because we have a shot to win there. Now, again, I don't care if we win that seat or not on the global scheme of things, on when I look at the grand strategy, because we can't lose. Because even if she wins, they get a freshman candidate nothing. Even if Joe Lieberman wins, he's a freshman candidate worth nothing. We didn't lose anything. There's nothing there. But if we win that seat, Now we've flipped a Democrat seat to red, and that's a solid win. So, like I said, when that came out, we can't lose, and you're seeing it act out right now in real time.
Jake says in the chat, James, her campaign slogan is "Success is overrated." Speaking of which, I think it's time for a hammering, James.
We're going to the hammering. Okay, bear with me, guys. It's not going to be as seamless as it normally is. Why? Because everything has been a freaking disaster today.
Stop the hammering.
You are about to see one of the biggest flips of all time. Chris Cuomo, ladies and gentlemen, on CNN. Let's go.
All right, here's my closing argument. This tweet was bad for you, Mr. President. Here it is. The summit with Russia was a great success. Nobody thinks that, except with the...
The summit with Russia was a great success, and Cuomo editorializes. Nobody thinks that. Yes, except all of the Republicans who, you know, his popularity increased within the Republican Party. But I will give Cuomo a little bit of leeway here. It's true that nobody thinks that because, as we now know, 99.998% of people don't think about the fucking thing at all. So, you know.
Real enemy of the people, the fake news media.
The fake news
media. This is ugly, and it is unoriginal. But most importantly, it is an admission that you hate your country.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I shit you not, the very same network that has been doing nothing but attempting to tear down and impeach your sitting president for the last 18 months now comes out and says because he doesn't like them and what they do, he hates you. He hates the country. We're going to rename America CNN, James. Did you know that?
Yep.
Donald Trump hates CNN. This proves he hates America. Oh, okay.
We're going to sell
America First Network with Chris Cuomo.
We're going to sell the branding rights just like we do at stadiums. It's now going to be the United States of CNN America.
Exactly right. Oh, CNN.
You know, this phrase was an operative threat to murder opposition in the French Revolution, right?
What?
You know,
what? How did we get here?
Yes, Donald Trump is now Robespierre of the French Revolution, James. You know, actually, he said this was the first thing that happened in the French Revolution. You know what the first thing that happened in the French Revolution was? They actually let all the prisoners out. They let all the prisoners out of jail so they could run rampant in the streets, right? You know, CNN loves America, hates Donald Trump.
Khrushchev identified the phrase as part of a campaign to annihilate individuals, literally, who disagreed with the supreme leader.
Yes.
His predecessor, Stalin, used it specifically with art.
Donald Trump is literally Stalin, I guess, because when Hitler wears itself out, we've got to move to the next era.
And thinkers that threatened his narrow views of humanity.
Yes.
Did you know that Mao used it during...
Donald Trump sounds like the world's biggest communist. They should be cheering him. Breaking. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez endorses Donald Trump. He reminds me of Chairman Now, she says in latest interview.
His murderous camp.
We're going to turn the whole country red like the Communist Workers' Party of China.
That's what she meant. That's why she was saying red. She was thinking of the communist flag.
The Pinkos. Donald Trump, everybody's favorite socialist.
The lead was formed in defiance of strongmen, bullies, and
strongmen and bullies. You see what they're doing here. Chris Cuomo thinks that Donald Trump supporters are still watching him. Like, So and these people are so stupid. They think that you're going to watch that and then be sitting at home and you're going to turn to your significant other or your children. It's going to be like, kids, grab the gun, pack up the car. Donald Trump's a communist. Oh my God! Why didn't we know about this earlier? He's a communist. I knew it. I knew it all along. I knew he was a communist.
The idea that might makes right. A free press is a metaphor for what makes America great. So you have now admitted that you are against what we are all about.
What is Chris Cuomo about, by the way? You know, Chris Cuomo loves the free press. Like, remember when WikiLeaks released all those documents and he said, you're not allowed to look at this? Yes. We're the only ones that are allowed to read this. Whatever you learn about the latest WikiLeaks stuff, you're getting it from us because it's illegal for you to have. He's a big fan of the free press, is Chris Cuomo.
Chris Cuomo proves that he and his brother have a genetic deficiency. It's actually genetic.
It's genetic.
That you don't hate what makes America truly great.
Yep.
I know.
See, I've been tracking the downfall of Western journalism for quite some time now, and for a while there, CNN was just bitching about people saying that they don't like watching them anymore, and I get that. It's hard to be on top of the ladder and then come back to the pack. You know, that's a soul-crushing experience. They've now gone into phase 2 of this narcissism. CNN is literally what makes America great. We are the free press.
Make America CNN again.
Yeah.
In the past, you've tried to play that you respect the media.
No, isn't it now make CNN America again?
Yeah, exactly.
Media, and that you know we're important. You know, like you said that when a bunch of us got murdered. But it didn't take long to come back to this. I knew you didn't lower those flags after the Maryland newspaper shooting right away for...
Wow. Yeah. Donald Trump didn't lower the flags after the newspaper shooting for a reason. Oh, and I suppose that reason is he just hates CNN, right? Like Donald Trump was running out to the flagpole himself to lower the flag. Like, it's all his fault. You know what? He was probably too busy reading the Communist Manifesto. I can't put it down. That's a hell of a book.
Just like you won't really own how Russia did the U.S. dirty in the election. Why?
Because is that journalism? Yeah, he did us dirty? Is that how the press is now? We're talking about riding dirty?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a reference to hookers in Moscow hotel rooms, isn't it? You know, the P-tape. The P-tape. Donald Trump, the germaphobe, enjoys being treated dirtily by Russians. Coming up next, CNN is the real America, and Donald Trump is literally Stalin.
You see things through the lens of what is good for you in these matters. So right now, you want people to hate us. But
I've got a happy little statistic. One of the reasons that Donald Trump was so popular is because he announced that the media was terrible when he first started running. Because one of the reasons he won, James, is because he was the only candidate prepared to say what so many people were thinking. And that goes to the media as well. We aren't stupid. We aren't goldfish. We knew before Donald Trump even announced his candidature for the presidency that people already hated the mainstream media. We knew that. And he came out and said, well, it seems like a lot of people hate the mainstream media. What's the go with this? And they all came out and said, you're a Nazi. And he's like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get it.
The old expression goes, point a finger at someone else, and there are 3 pointing back at you.
You mean like you're doing?
It's kind of nowhere, depending on where you put it. That's the point. The point is, to say Putin isn't the enemy, the free press is, doesn't worry me. I know the truth.
You know the truth.
I've traveled the world, and I know our media.
I've traveled the world, you elitist scum.
Yeah. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Breathe the mountain air, man. I've been to Russia. I've been everywhere, man.
That's the best check against the abusive power that can lead to a Stalin or a Mao. The real worry could be for you. Do you I'm talking to you now, Donald Trump. You know, you're not like Stalin and Mao. You've got shit to worry about. We're still powerful. We're still in control. Really think that people will keep a president who hates what their country is all about.
Well, they're keeping him up to this point, and they're dropping you, Mr. Cuomo, and CNN. Make America CNN again. I've been everywhere, man. Russia, Russia, Russia. Congratulations. There's your hammering.
Amazing hammering. Stop the hammer. Thanks, guys, for coming tonight. That's about all the time we got for you. I thought, let me wrap that up real quick with Chris Cuomo is a moron. We know this. It's plainly apparent. A thank you to Boogie. If you want to follow him, you can follow him at Boogie Bumper. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Real Person Politics. If you want to follow us, you can follow us at TAV Show. And you can find all your favorite broadcasters on TAVshow.com. And to catch the latest edition of our techno mix of Russia, 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 join TAVshow.com. Boogie will have that posted in just a little bit. Take care, everybody. Aloha.
Can you see by the CNN line?